It was not long ago when humans appeared on Earth. From conquering fire to splitting the atom, the species has made great strides in understanding nature and bending it to its will. It is a common belief that humans once were imprisoned in a dark cave, staring at shadows on a wall, mistaking those silhouettes for reality, their only truth, and remaining unaware of what lay beyond their perception. Today, with modern science, they fancy themselves free from that prison, finally comprehending reality in all its complexity. It seems like nothing is beyond grasp. Human knowledge will continue to expand forever, with no limit other than time. Given enough time, humans will surely ascend through the Kardashev scale and become cosmic gods. Right? Do you believe that? What if there are limits to human understanding? Thresholds that civilization can never cross. In this video, we will delve into these intriguing possibilities. Consider the thought experiment of the farmer hypothesis. On a turkey farm, every morning without fail, the farmer arrives at precisely 11 to feed the flock. Professor Beekstein, the most brilliant turkey scientist in the whole barn, diligently records this pattern and notices it to become unbroken for nearly a year. Confident in his findings, he proclaims the universal law: food arrives every day at 11. The turkeys rejoiced, convinced that their future was secured by science. And then, Thanksgiving. That morning, the unshakable law of nature crumbled. Food did not arrive. Instead, food is what they became. What do we take from this fable? Delicious. Poor Professor Beekstein made no mistake. To his best capacity, he used all the available data to form his conclusion. His observations were accurate, yet he failed to grasp the dark, cruel reality that lurked beyond his perception. A chilling lesson, wouldn't you agree? You see, humans are not unlike the turkeys. As Professor Beekstein, humans rely heavily on the scientific method to obtain knowledge. This method is a systematic approach to understanding the universe, rooted in the species' innate cognitive abilities to recognize patterns and infer cause and effect relationships. Humans are born equipped with basic assumptions, self-evident truths, a priori knowledge, or whatever you prefer to call them, the factory settings of their minds, essentially base data to run their natural operating systems. Take, for example, the notion of causality, which is the assumption that every effect must have a cause, or the capacity for inductive reasoning, the ability to generalize and deduce behaviors from past observed patterns. These natural intuitions of the human mind were fundamental for the species' survival. Without these preconceptions, people wouldn't be able to understand that the sun will rise tomorrow or the cyclic nature of the seasons. Yet, induction comes with a fatal flaw. It assumes the future will mirror the past, a notion that can never be fully proven. To be absolutely certain of a universal pattern, one would have to observe every instance, past and future, which, as you might guess, is impossible for humans. Consider, for example, the claim that all ravens are black. This assumption remains open to contest until every raven that ever exists is seen. This is the classic problem of induction. The scientific method offers a clever workaround to this problem by emphasizing falsifiability. Rather than looking for evidence to confirm an assumption, it seeks to disprove it. One contradictory observation, a single white raven, is enough to disprove even the most seemingly solid claims. Falsifiability ensures that theories remain open to challenge, even if they appear rock solid, with continual support from evidence and having survived repeated attempts of disproof. Professor Beekstein had a year's worth of data supporting his claim, yet, in the end, he was proven wrong and had no opportunity for correction. In truth, one cannot be certain if any theory is universal, that is, whether it holds true across space and time. This uncertainty is why black swans, unpredictable, high-impact events, so often take humans by surprise. They expose the gaps in human experience, highlight the overconfidence in incomplete frameworks, and remind us that missing information can entirely alter the perception of reality. Make no mistake, this is not a critique of the scientific method, which is highly beneficial to your kind. It minimizes error by reducing fallacies and biases, while enhancing the raw natural intuition people are born with. Humanity's most advanced technologies are the fruit of its application. The main takeaway from this fable is that your capacity to learn is limited by your capacity to observe. But is limited observation the only thing restricting human knowledge? Or is there something more, something yet to be uncovered? Let's turn our attention to another thought experiment, the shooter hypothesis. Imagine a master marksman firing at a target, leaving holes spaced every 10 centimeters. This very target, or shall we call it flatland, is home to a charming bi-dimensional civilization, the Line Folk. After a lifetime of studying their universe, their most prominent scientist, Dr. Einstein, notices the intriguing pattern and establishes a universal law. There exists a hole in the universe every 10 centimeters. Little does he know that in our three-dimensional realm, a marksman is actively puncturing his flat world. Unlike Professor Beekstein, who eventually uncovered the grim truth, Dr. Einstein remains confined to the two-dimensional perspective of flatland. This thought experiment raises an important question. Are humans similarly blind to dimensions beyond their reach? While the example plays with spatial dimensions, a readily graspable divergence from human intuition, the core idea extends to any aspect or quality of the fabric of reality that might lie beyond human perception or cognition. As demonstrated in the farmer hypothesis, your capacity to learn is limited by your capacity to observe. But your capacity to observe, in turn, is confined by the boundaries of human nature. So, it seems that mankind is not as free from the shackles of ignorance as it likes to believe. You have broken free from the cave prison and discovered the objects that cast the shadows on the wall, only to find yourselves trapped in another cave, not realizing that these objects are merely shadows themselves. Your perception of reality, everything you see or feel, is nothing more than a blurry reflection in a crude mirror. Your body and mind. The body functions as an instrument that captures selective information from the universe, while the mind acts as software, processing and rendering that data. Your senses can grasp only a fraction of the universe's complexity, filtering and distorting the raw nature of reality in the process. Even artificial sensors that humans have built are but slight extensions of their natural capabilities. Ultimately, the mind remains a limiting factor, shaping how information is perceived and cognized. Humans wander in a universe far more complex and unfathomable than their minds are able to conceive. The human mind, what makes you you, is the threshold that prevents your species from perceiving deeper truths, constraining it to incomplete understanding, a mirage of comprehension. For humans, proving universal truths may be just as elusive as catching the red dot. This concept of limited perception is brilliantly explored in the Three Body Problems series. Be aware there will be spoilers ahead. Humanity faces an existential crisis. The very laws of physics, once deemed universal, suddenly appeared to waver. In the last few years, humanity has finally acquired the equipment necessary to test fundamental theories at levels never achieved before, with the construction of 3 flagship high-energy particle accelerators. However, the results were puzzling. Yet, with the new equipment, the same particles, the same energy levels, and the same experimental parameters would yield different results. Not only would the results vary if different accelerators were used, but even with the same accelerator, experiments performed at different times would give different results. Physicists panicked. They repeated the ultra-high energy collision experiments again and again, using the same conditions, But every time, the result was different, and there seemed to be no pattern. "What does this mean?" Wang asked.
Means that the laws of physics are not invariant across time and space.
What does that mean? It means that laws of physics that could be applied anywhere in the universe do not exist, which means that physics also does not exist.
The terrifying reason for this perplexing situation soon emerged. The Trisolarans, an aggressive and technologically superior alien civilization, have discovered Earth's location. They wish to conquer the planet and take it for themselves, as their original three-sun system is subject to unpredictable hostile environment variations that threaten to extinguish their civilization. They knew that, while in a primitive state, human technological advancements surpassed theirs in speed. Their estimations predicted that by the time their invading fleet reaches Earth, in 400 years, humans would have technological supremacy and be able to wipe out the invasion effortlessly. In a bid to secure their advantage, the Trisolarans devised a brilliant strategy: the suppression of human advancements in scientific progress. They created a technology that could tamper with human research on the quantum level, the Sophon. The Sophon is a proton-sized supercomputer engineered to interfere with the results of human experiments. It scrambles the data emerging from particle accelerators, ensuring that experiments yield inconsistent, misleading results. With each attempt to unlock new phenomena, human scientists are met not with clarity, but with confusion. Forever confined to refining outdated theories and unable to achieve new breakthroughs. As we covered thoroughly, humans need to observe new phenomena to advance their understanding of the laws of nature. The particle accelerators are a means to observe new events that do not occur naturally on Earth. The Sophon acts as a blindfold, condemning humanity to be forever stuck at their current level of understanding of the laws of physics, effectively freezing in time human technology and crushing any means of Earth's defense. While in the thought experiments of the farmer and the shooter hypothesis, the scientists were utterly ignorant of the existence of deeper truths. The characters from our story are aware they can advance further in gathering new knowledge, but their means of doing so were neutralized by an act of intergalactic warfare. Thus, the story of the Sophon underscores a sobering truth. While human ingenuity drives technological advancement that is limited by the inherent bounds of observation, it might also be limited by deliberate obfuscation imposed by more powerful, unseen players in the cosmic arena. Despite having its scientific progress frozen by the Sophon, humanity did not cease to advance its technology with the knowledge it still had at its disposal. Over the next 2 centuries, humans refined their technologies to an extraordinary degree. On Earth, flying vehicles and synthetic grains became part of everyday life. Electrical devices no longer required batteries, as they were perpetually powered wirelessly. Most cities had moved deep underground, so their artificial skies would shield citizens from the ocean of fire that would consume the surface when flames rained down in the doomsday battle to come. In preparation for war, a vast space fleet emerged. 2,000 warships forming 3 independent nations. Many of these ships were as large as small cities. Humanity developed new weapons: gamma-ray lasers, railguns, high-energy particle beams, and stellar torpedoes, forming a 4-way weapon system capable of obliterating the surface of an Earth-sized planet. Their propulsion system, fueled by matured nuclear fusion, allowed them to reach up to 15% of the speed of light with acceleration forces as high as 120 Gs. To survive such forces, deep-sea acceleration fluid filled the chambers and the bodies of the crew, allowing them to endure the otherwise lethal pressure. Some Stellar-class ships even abandoned traditional bridges and specialized rooms in favor of holographic interfaces, enabling commanders to operate the vessel from anywhere on board. Earth stood strong, its fleet outnumbering the Trisolarans 2-to-1. Even more promising, telescope observations indicated that the enemy's formation was becoming sparser, their ships losing acceleration, projections suggested that no more than 300 Trisolaran ships would arrive at the initially predicted time, far fewer than expected. Confidence surged. Humanity prepared for diplomacy, convinced they would negotiate from a position of strength.
Amid this era of rising optimism, a Trisolaran probe, sent at a higher velocity ahead of the main fleet,
approached Earth. Humanity's newfound confidence made them think it was a peace offering, a sign of potential cooperation. They were gravely mistaken. To showcase Earth's power, the entire space fleet repositioned itself at a safe distance while a single warship intercepted the incoming probe. It was a teardrop-shaped object, 3.5 meters in length. The Droplet. Perfect in shape, a smoothly gleaming, solid drop of liquid whose exquisite beauty erased all functional and technical meaning, embodying the lightness and detachment of philosophy and art. It looked as fragile as a glass thermos liner in space, yet it was not fragile in the slightest. Without warning, it accelerated, ramming through the intercepting ship and heading straight for the heart of the fleet. In under a minute, 100 warships detonated like a string of firecrackers. Commanders were paralyzed with disbelief, unable to comprehend the unfolding devastation. Only after 13 minutes and the loss of more than 600 warships did the Fleet Command System arrive at the correct assessment. But it was useless. Humanity's most powerful weapons were utterly ineffective. Damaging the Droplet was impossible. It was untouchable. The Droplet's surface was composed of strong interaction material, which differs from ordinary matter, as solids differ from liquids. With surgical precision, the Droplet continued its slaughter, turning at sharp angles without decelerating, maneuvering in ways thought impossible. It effortlessly recalculated and adjusted its trajectory in real time, stitching together a scene of molten metal, blood, and death. It didn't take long until the entire human space force was annihilated. Their enemy, a single probe, one drop of water from the endless ocean of Trisolaran strength. Humanity was forced to confront the undeniable truth. They were not prepared for their fate and might never be. The Sophon had blinded humans to new scientific discovery, but in truth, humanity had blinded itself as well. They had deluded themselves into believing that refining old technologies was a grand civilizational leap, even as their universities still taught 200-year-old physics. Given enough time, cavemen could have perfected the art of making spears, but without breakthroughs in fundamental knowledge, they would never develop modern weapons. For 2 centuries, humans had spent their efforts crafting sharper, more refined spears, convinced that these incremental improvements would make them invincible. In the end, the lesson was clear. Without the ability to discover and grasp new fundamental principles, technological revolutions, and with them, true civilizational leaps are impossible. For those who live in ignorance, mere technological refinements can masquerade as breakthroughs simply because the alternative lies beyond imagination. Without new knowledge, humanity cannot even begin to comprehend what technology might truly become. Long after humanity has already faced its fair share of cosmic threats, the species still insisted on following its instincts to delude themselves of perfect understanding. In the 3-Body Problem series, the Dark Forest theory is factual. For those unfamiliar with the theory, based on the premise that mutual understanding and trust are impossible on a cosmic scale, it posits that the universe is like a dark forest, where civilizations tend to hide their presence and proactively destroy other detected intelligent life as a means of assuring their own survival. One possible explanation for the Fermi paradox in the real world. This fact is known to humanity. At this point, mankind has already witnessed the destruction of 2 planetary systems. Their sin, to have signs of intelligent life broadcasted from their locations to the cosmos. Unfortunately, Earth's position was also revealed, making its days counted. For both systems, destruction came in the same form, a tiny object,
a photoid was accelerated to near light speed, blasting their suns, resulting in the complete vaporization of the systems.
Based on the photoid attacks, human scientists calculated the potential effects of a similar attack on Earth's solar system. Their solution was to hide in the shadow of Jupiter, a so-called safe zone. For generations, humanity devoted its resources to creating a colony within this protective haven. Yet, despite these measures, humans once again proved short-sighted. When the alarms finally detected signals of an impending attack, no photoid was in sight. Instead, what was found was a solitary, unassuming white slip of paper, delicate and harmless in appearance, like a feather floating in the night air. What followed defied all expectations. The white light from the slip of paper blinked twice and then vanished. The light was a protective field, acting as a package barrier that separated two-dimensional space from our three-dimensional realm. When both came into direct contact, our three-dimensional space started collapsing into two. Unlike the previous attacks, where planetary configurations did not provide a natural barrier from such strike, this assault exploited specifically Earth system vulnerabilities. The structure of a planetary system is easily observed from a distance. If humans could figure out how to survive a photoid attack in their system, so could the much more advanced attacker. Here, weakness and ignorance were not the barriers to survival, but arrogance. The blind trust humans deposited in what they saw proved fatal. Had a different strategy been adopted, their destiny might have been altered. The slip of paper was a dual vector foil, a weapon designed to collapse three-dimensional space into a two-dimensional plane, rendering three-dimensional life impossible. In the days following the attack, everything in the increasingly affected area was flattened into a grand painting of annihilation, until the entire solar system was laid out as grand cosmic tapestry. On that day, the very laws of the universe were weaponized to wipe out humanity, exposing how helpless humans were compared to other cosmic players. For the attacking aliens, this unimaginable weapon was rudimentary. The dual vector foil drifted in front of Singer. It was sealed in its package, crystal clear. Although it was an ordinary object, Singer liked it a lot. He didn't like the expensive tools too much. They were too violent. He liked the unyielding tenderness displayed by the dual vector foil, a kind of aesthetic that could turn death into a song. Singer's civilization wielded a weapon so unimaginable that no human defense could hope to counter. Humans had arrogantly trusted in what they knew, ignoring the unpredictable and lethal nature of the cosmos. Now, in this final part, we dive one layer deeper into how humans might be even more distant from the true laws of nature than previously imagined. Let's begin with a question. How natural is nature? The series challenges this idea with a simple example: Earth's environment. Originally, Earth developed the necessary conditions for life to emerge. Yet once life took hold, it reshaped the planet as well. Geological formations, such as mountains, were dramatically affected by vegetation which is directly correlated to the erosion of soil. Over millions of years, it had a monumental effect. Even further, in the absence of plants, animals, and bacteria, the atmosphere would have developed entirely differently, possibly unable to shield the planet from solar winds and ultraviolet rays, leading to the gradual evaporation of the oceans and the loss of water to space. After billions of years, Earth could have become a desolate, dry world. This example does not even take into account human interference. Humans exert a profound influence on their environment, and their actions, driven by purpose, a complex, unpredictable process, can defy even the most rigorous predictive models. For instance, one might build a model that predicts the formation of a desert in a given location based solely on Earth's initial conditions. However, such a model would fail to foresee the rise of a bustling city like Las Vegas, the product of deliberate human action. The same applies to all other countless man-made structures and the subsequent consequences these structures exert over the environment. As demonstrated in the dual-vector foil attack, an advanced civilization bent the very laws of nature into a weapon, radically altering the environment to fulfill its purposes. If the universe is full of life and full of other, more advanced civilizations, how many times were such weapons used? Could it be that nature and its governing laws are nothing more than the accumulated consequences of actions taken by more powerful beings? In the series, the universe is revealed to have once existed in a very different state, a 10-dimensional realm where the speed of light was nearly infinite, allowing it to traverse the cosmos within a Planck time. That ancient cosmos was gradually reshaped as advanced civilizations started waging war in a bid for survival, as per the Dark Forest theory. These civilizations began to eliminate one another. They deployed nature-bending weapons repeatedly until the very laws of the universe settled into the configuration known today. In this view, the natural laws that humans study are nothing more than ruins of cosmic warfare. Humanity and other baby civilizations have not witnessed the previous states of the universe. They cannot grasp the original conditions or comprehend the means by which nature was bent to the current form. Much like as one can understand a puddle was ice before, but will never discern the original shape the ice sculpture took. It is not simply a matter of having existed long enough to observe the change. The human mind itself evolved within this new configuration. It was shaped in it and developed specifically to be able to navigate it. Reality, as perceived by humans, conforms to the structure of their cognition. Thus, a different state of reality falls outside the scope of human sensibility and understanding. Even assuming humans could survive and operate in another state of reality, they would still interpret reality through the same limited sensory filters. These filters might produce readings that do not correspond to the actual phenomena, making it impossible to comprehend for creatures of such a limited nature. In trying to understand the laws that govern nature, humans might never have come into contact with anything truly natural at all. After all, everything could already have been artificially manipulated by other, more advanced civilizations, humans and their capabilities alike. Humans are much like ants crossing a tombstone. They perceive the structure as nothing more than natural stone, unaware that it is in fact a deliberately shaped structure, engineered by beings beyond their comprehension, crafted with tools and for purposes they cannot possibly understand. So, what have we learned from this journey into the limits of human knowledge? Perhaps the most profound truth is that you, as humans, are forever bound by your nature. Your knowledge will always be incomplete. You might be small creatures in a sandbox, perhaps even being toyed with at this very moment without realizing it. The universe swarms with mysteries that hover just beyond your grasp. Remember, there is what you know you don't know, which we discussed in the video, and what you don't know that you don't know, which we are not even able to discuss. Each category expands exponentially in scope and magnitude. But don't despair. The thrilling pursuit of understanding will always be by your side, urging you onward. And who knows, perhaps one day you'll be able to shatter the shackles of your own mind and glimpse truths beyond your wildest dreams. If you're eager for more, become a follower of catLulu. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about humanity's illusion of knowledge? Like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, and farewell, curious humans.